In the 1970s, it wasn't entirely accepted on TV that men and women lived together that weren't in relationships, until three roommates figured it out in the most hilarious way, week after week. And one of them happened to be a chef. Hey everyone, welcome to YesterKitchen, where we learn history through food. I'm Jill, and while I've got your attention, please hit that subscribe button. I have so much more retro cooking coming your way. And while you're at it, check out the description. I've been shopping lately and I've got some links that I wanted to share with you. And where do you find my recipes? YesterKitchen.com. My website is up and I've got them all there, along with an opportunity for you to get my e-cookbook. All my recipes in this entire series, all in order, and it's adorable. So today is part 4 in our Retro TV Food Faves series, and part last. This has been great. We've so far celebrated the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and we're gonna do the 70s, 80s again today because these two shows were some of my favorites and they kind of overlap the decades. So today is all things Three's Company, and we're gonna get our appetizer taken care of. So now today we're gonna finish out our full meal and we're gonna learn all about Three's Company, which was actually one of my favorite shows. So Three's Company started in 1976 and it finally went off the air in 1984. And it was about 3 roommates who weren't supposed to live together because apparently back then the landlords got to pay attention to what you did inside of your apartment. And he said, well, I don't want any funny business going on. And the roommates said, well, I don't understand the problem. The guy is gay. He really wasn't. Total ladies' man, but boy, he pretended. And it was John Ritter, Joyce DeWitt, and Suzanne Summers in this classic roommate in a little apartment in Santa Monica series that it was so popular, it was crazy, and it was probably because they were also pushing the sexual envelope for back then. So out of the 172 episodes, I picked a dish because, of course, Jack was going to cooking school. He was a chef, which is one of the reasons also why I picked this show. There was a lot of food that came out of that. The episode, The Catered Affair, was released February 6, 1979, and that's where our dish we're gonna make is coming from. We're gonna make shrimp stuffed mushrooms. And actually the show was about Jack, Chrissy worked in an office and her manager wanted to throw a cocktail party, and at the last minute the caterer bailed out and Chrissy said, well, my roommate's a caterer, and he came in and shrimp stuffed mushrooms was one of the things he made. So I'm gonna get started on it, but I've got a whole lot of Three's Company to celebrate with you. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start sauteing some vegetables. Everything is gonna go inside of these glorious mushroom caps and we're gonna have the best appetizer to our complete dinner. So the first thing we're gonna do is start with a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And you wanna put that into a heated pan and let it sit for just a minute until your olive oil starts getting a little warm. Okay, so to that, we're gonna add a 1/2 cup of finely chopped onions. Really chop them up fine because they're going in these baby mushrooms. So you really don't want people to find giant chunks of onions in there. And then we're gonna add 3 large cloves of garlic chopped. If your garlic cloves are tiny, use more. I mean, there's garlic is just, oh my gosh, so delicious. We're gonna stir that around, maybe turn the heater up a little bit and get that going. And after that, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of chopped fresh basil. And we're gonna add a 1/2 teaspoon of chopped up fresh rosemary. I use fresh rosemary because it's just such a brighter flavor. If all you have is dried rosemary is a little more powerful than fresh. So how do you go down from a 1/4? Maybe like 1/8 of a teaspoon, maybe a little bit less, because you really don't want the rosemary to overpower the dish. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna let these guys kind of swim in the olive oil and get all happy and sauteed. And you're gonna go for about 5 minutes. So while these are sauteing, our roommates, they've changed a little bit over the years. They started out with Jack, Janet, and Chrissy. And then they went to Jack, Janet, and Cindy, who was supposed to be Chrissy's cousin. Suzanne Summers left the show at the height of popularity because, well, she wanted as much money as Jack, and she also wanted some of the profits. So there was a whole debacle. She wound up leaving the show. She kind of left them high and dry, but they saved the show and it went on for several more years. So anyway, they replaced Chrissy with Chrissy's cousin, Cindy. That went on for not too long because the ratings went down. So they replaced Cindy, and now we have Jack, Janet, and Terry. And Terry stayed through the end of the show. We also, and by the way, you want to keep this going until your onions start getting translucent. You want them to cook through, even though they are going in the oven later. Oh, set your oven to 350. Right now, let it start warming up. Then we have our roommates. We started out with the Ropers, and they were there for the first 2 years, and they were hysterical. I mean, Mrs. Roper was just crazy and just wanted to live life to the fullest, and Mr. Roper, well, he was a little more subdued, but they made a great pair. But in 1979, they were offered their own spin-off show called The Ropers. Mrs. Roper, Audra Lindley, couldn't wait. Mr. Roper, Norman Fell, didn't want to leave the show because he knew what a hit he had on his hands. So the producers promised them that if the Ropers didn't work, they can come back to the show. Well, the Ropers didn't work, and the producers weren't being very honest because they didn't let them come back on the show. In the meantime, they replaced the Ropers with landlord Mr. Furley. Don Knotts, does it get any better than that? So the very first time Don Knotts came on stage as Mr. Furley, he got a 10-minute standing ovation. I mean, people know what a classic actor he was. Actually, John Ritter, who played Jack, was actually really scared of Don Knotts because Don Knotts was seriously the superstar, but everything worked out. It was hysterical. Don Knotts, oh, that character he created, thought he was a total ladies' man. He dressed in the most ridiculous clothes, and well, you know. And if you don't know, go watch some Three's Company. It's fabulous. Okay, so it looks like our veggies. Look at that. Our veggies are nice and soft. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the oven. Uh-oh, went the wrong way. And I'm going to get this out of the way. And we've got our happy little bowl. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch previous episodes of mine. I love this happy little bowl. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our veggies and put them in said happy little bowl. And now we're going to mix in the following. You want 6 ounces of chopped up little tiny bay shrimp. You know the kind. They're already cooked. They usually go in the cheap little shrimp cocktails. Anyway, 6 ounces, about 1.25 cups. You want them chopped, and in they go. And the next thing you want is 2/3 cup of fresh breadcrumbs. Please use fresh. It's so easy to make breadcrumbs. When you know the ends of them that nobody ever eats, throw them in the blender, throw them in the food processor, get them all crumbs, and keep them in the freezer. They stay forever. And whenever you need breadcrumbs, they're ready for you. And they're so much better than the canned stuff. Okay, now we got 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan. In that goes. And we've got 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. You gotta have a binder. And you want, oh, a little shrimpy. And you want to just start mixing that around and kind of get absolutely everything incorporated. And then once you got that, you're going to give it a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and a little tiny taste. Okay. I always keep my salt in a little container. I just think it's so much easier to control than like a grinder or anything like that. And then for pepper, I always grind fresh pepper every single time, and you should too. It just, trust me, it makes a difference. All right. We're gonna do that. And you definitely want to give it a taste, and you're fine. Everything's cooked. Okay, so we're gonna give this a taste. Tiny little taste. Perfect. You don't want too much salt because Parmesan cheese is pretty salty. So did you know that the roommates, the original 3 roommates, did not meet until the first day of rehearsal? They actually, Suzanne Summers, I think, got hired the day before. I mean, it was just last minute, so they really didn't get a chance to bond. They actually bonded as the show was being filmed because they didn't know each other until day 1. So the classic Three's Company theme song, you know, come and knock on our door, take a step that is new. You know the song. I'm not going to sing it. I can't sing. Anyway, it was written by Joe Rasposo, who also wrote the Sesame Street theme song, which is kind of like a 180 from 1 to 1, but brilliant song. And in the very beginning, when when Jack is riding the bicycle along the beach, you know, the opening, and he sees a brunette walking toward him and he falls off the bike. Anyway, that was Suzanne Somers in a brown wig. And while we're talking about the theme song, it was originally planned that the roommates would sing the theme song. They weren't too excited about it, but they gave it a go. And I'm guessing that they were probably, maybe better, anyone's better than me, but probably not much, because they decided to have professionals sing it instead. Okay, so now it's time to get these mushrooms stuffed. Let's get all this stuff out of the way. So here's what I'm gonna do. I have got big, beautiful, not like mushroom caps ready to stuff, but I don't know if some of you haven't taken out the insides before, so I thought I'd do one for you. All right, here, I'm gonna get this out of the way first and put this little cute mushroom right front and center. So it's super, super easy. You wanna buy baby portobellos, not anything smaller because there's just not enough room. So baby portobellos are about 2.5 inches big, and they come just like this. Some of them come like this, ready to go, and then you don't have to do anything, but just in case, I've got you covered. So the first thing you want to do is just pull out the mushroom stem, and then you want to take a teaspoon upside down and kind of run it along just under that white overhang and scrape along the bottom, and what you're doing is you're removing those brown gills. That's it. As soon as they're all gone, your mushroom is ready to stuff. So, get that out of the way, and we're gonna bring our baking sheet back. So here's my little kitchen hack, because I'm not a big fan of doing dishes. So usually whenever I use a baking pan, I line it with foil. Then you just throw it away, put it away, done deal. So anyway, here we go. I have our little mushrooms, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and stuff each one. But, so you just kind of put it in there. And that's pretty much it. So give me a second, I'll stuff them all and I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Look at these things, mushrooms, all stuffed. I think my mushrooms were a little smaller this time because I had enough to stuff 10 mushrooms. And when I say stuffed, they're called stuffed mushroom for a reason. Stuff them. And now these beautiful things are gonna go into a 350-degree oven for 35 minutes. And I will be back with more trivia, more Three's Company, and some fabulous mushrooms in just a minute. Okay, it's been 35 minutes, and look at our mushrooms. They are gorgeous. The top is all brown. You know what? Mushrooms are mostly water. So a lot of that water has evaporated out. It's cooked all the way through, and believe me, they are delicious. I've already tested them for you. So, Three's Company. Got a little sad news for you. Who was around when Three's Company was originally airing? I was really little, but I gotta raise my hand. It was 40 years ago. I know. Anyway, let's take a look. I have a very, very trendy 70s plate, so I'm gonna push our mushrooms out of the way. And these mushrooms will, will go perfectly at a cocktail party, whether it's a 70s cocktail party or not. If you've been watching me long enough, you know I'm all about the 70s cocktail party, but these guys will go perfect for any. They are so great with cocktails. They're definitely like a little plate thing, but they work. So Jack and Janet, both of them were in every single one of the 172 episodes of Three's Company. And they actually went on to be really great friends. Well, except Suzanne Somers. She kind of lost her friendship. But you know what? In 2014, I believe it was, Janet and Chrissy made up. They actually were on TV and they saw each other and they talked about it and they decided it's time. So they made up and it was great. It was heartwarming. So if you really want to see, the production quality of TV has really gone up in the years. If you really watch closely on Three's Company, not every episode, but a lot of them, I mean not a lot of them, but you'll see the mic stand kind of off in the distance, or you'll see the lights coming down. They weren't as advanced as now, but I think that's what makes it just a really fun show. So here are our stuffed shrimp mushrooms. They are fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I've got a question for you because now our series is over. We have done the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've given you an appetizer, ta-da, cocktail, main dish and dessert. And this was so much fun to put together. I really hope you liked it as much as me. My question to you is, what do you think about the series? Because I have a few more planned for you. As a matter of fact, one of them is going to involve 4 very good friends of mine who are insanely funny, insanely entertaining, and have come from around the country. So they have regional specialties that they're going to be sharing. But I really want to know, how did you feel about the series? I've never really done this before, and I kind of liked it, and I need to give my husband Rod credit. I told him I wanted to do a series. I was thinking of what to do, and he came up with this idea. So thank you, honey. As a matter of fact, I think I'll thank him by saving these mushrooms for him. So doing this, a lot of work, a lot of fun. I had an absolutely blast. Have you subscribed yet? You should, because I have so much more coming. And if you're new, check out my past videos. They're all from the 40s through the 70s, mostly. And I just love sharing retro food history with you guys, and cooking the dishes that people used to eat and bringing them back. But for now, I'm gonna wrap up the series. Thank you so much for joining me for Retro TV Food Faves. I hope you liked it as much as I did, and I will see you next time with who knows what. I'm still thinking about it. But in the meantime, don't forget, history has never tasted so good.